Hello, I'm Ben Tuman, and welcome to Skipped History. Today's story is about Teddy Roosevelt and the Great Wall Street Scandal of 1905. I read about it in We the Corporations by Adam Winkler, How to Hide an Empire by Daniel Immerwahr, and Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram Kendi. Teddy Roosevelt is one of the most celebrated presidents in U.S. history. From a young age, we learn in textbooks that he was a Rough Rider and trustbuster who took on industry. As late as 2017, a group of historians polled by C-SPAN ranked Teddy as the fourth best president ever, which explains why Blake Lively posted this picture of him on Instagram with the caption, "My new husband." Well, either that, or Blake thought exhuming Teddy's corpse would finally give her a good enough excuse to tell the sisterhood of the traveling pants that she was done wearing those jeans. Either way, given Teddy's inflated reputation, it's worth exhuming some of the less discussed and less flattering aspects of his legacy. For example, we left off last episode discussing how Filipinos declared war on the U.S. after Teddy's predecessor, William McKinley, reneged on promises to protect Filipino independence. As it turns out, Teddy was similarly unconcerned with honesty. And in 1902, he insisted to the U.S. public that the war in the Philippines was over, when in reality, it went on for 11 more years. And by 1904, an estimated 750,000 Filipinos died, as did many more in the years following. And Teddy's lack of concern for the truth was even more obvious when trying to defend his trustbuster legacy during the Great Wall Street Scandal of 1905. To understand the scandal, let's first look at campaign finance laws, or rather, the lack thereof, in the 1890s. The norm then was for huge corporations to bribe politicians who'd passed legislation that would help maximize company profits. However, it wasn't until 1896 that corporate titans like John D. Rockefeller used their money to finance elections. That year, corporations contributed around $7 million, or over $200 million in 2021, to the Republican nominee, William McKinley. Similar sums were raised for McKinley's re-election in 1900, and even more money was raised for Teddy's election in 1904. But the new trend of corporations buying elections remained largely off the public's radar until a Versailles-themed costume ball. The party's host was James Hazen Hyde, the 29-year-old vice president and son of the founder of the Equitable Life Insurance Company. One of the wealthiest men in the U.S., in January 1905, he threw the most gorgeous costume ball in a ballroom decorated as was Versailles under Louis XVI. The supper room arranged like the interior of a tent, which I guess was a French camping aesthetic. I hope the freeze-dried croissants were magnifique. The estimated cost of the party was $200,000, or around $5 million today. And as someone leaked to the press, Hyde didn't pay for the party himself. He expensed it, kind of like going out to a business lunch and saying, "I'll have the house special. Make it a 3-bedroom." In response, the New York State Legislature launched an investigation of Equitable Life and the other major life insurance companies. Life insurance was one of the biggest industries at the time. During the first few weeks of hearings, the chief investigator, Charles Evan Hughes, didn't find much of interest until George Perkins took the stand. Perkins was an executive at the New York Life Insurance Company, the right-hand man of J.P. Morgan, and a confidant of Teddy Roosevelt. And Hughes sought his testimony on a number of matters, but particularly a mysterious expenditure on New York Life's books for $48,000, or around $1 million today. On the first day of his testimony, Perkins requested a private audience with Hughes at the lunch break, where he told him, "You're handling dynamite. That $48,000 was a contribution to President Roosevelt's campaign fund." Scandal! To that point, Teddy had carefully crafted an image as a populist trustbuster, declaring in 1901 there is a widespread conviction in the minds of the American people that the great corporations known as trusts are hurtful to the general welfare. In my judgment, this conviction is right. Yet here was a life insurance and bank executive telling Hughes that Teddy Bear was in bed with the corporate giants. Perkins warned Hughes, "You might want to think twice before submitting that to evidence." So, the first thing Hughes did after the lunch break was submit that to evidence and ask Perkins about the expenditure. Perkins came clean, and Hughes soon learned of other secret donations to Teddy from New York Life, as well as from each of the major life insurance companies. All of a sudden, Teddy's earlier support of legislation that would have established a Federal Bureau of Insurance overseen by a superintendent handpicked by the life insurance companies started to seem suspicious. How did Teddy respond to Perkins's confession? Well, first he denied, calling accusations of corruption monstrous, the contributions from corporations not an issue, and then after repeated refutations, pointed to his own record of refutation. Kind of like Shaggy getting caught red-handed and then saying, but as I sang several times, it wasn't me. When the Shaggy defense didn't work, and it was revealed that 70% of the money Teddy raised for election in 1904 had come from major corporations, he pivoted to endorsing Hughes' suggestion that corporate spending in politics be expressly prohibited. Within a year, the first major campaign finance law, called the Tillman Act, was born. Of course, to pass that legislation and repair his image as a trustbuster, Teddy had to make a deal with the devil. South Carolina Senator Ben Tillman, no relation to me, Ben Tooman, who after Teddy had dinner with Booker T. Washington in 1901, lamented the meal would necessitate killing 1,000 black people in the South before they learned their place again. I repeat, no relation. And Tillman was all in on limiting money in politics, hence the Tillman Act, because doing so would hurt Republicans like Teddy and help elect racist Democrats. In 1912, Tillman achieved his goal when a fellow racist Democrat from South Carolina, Woodrow Wilson, was elected president. While in office, Wilson would, among other things, legitimize the KKK, whose ranks were swelled by soldiers who had just returned from killing thousands of people of color in a protracted war in the Philippines. Now, I'm not saying we can blame Teddy for the revival of the KKK. It's possible Wilson would have become president even if corporate money were still flowing during the 1912 elections. And there are plenty of non-racist reasons to like campaign finance reform. But I am saying that maybe the trustbuster who partnered with a white supremacist to limit money in politics after getting busted taking money from trusts might not be the marriage material we're taught to think he is. And that, as we're beginning to see, you can't totally divorce U.S. activity abroad from subsequent affairs at home. The best example of a foreign intervention coming home to roost might be the U.S.'s 1953 operations in Iran, which were overseen by none other than Teddy's grandson, Kermit. Tune in next time to learn more about that bit of skipped history. Skipped history! That's better.